All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Exit the Drinking Life podcast. I'm so excited today because we do have a guest on with us. And what she has to offer and is bringing out into the world, I believe, is a fabulous thing. And that's why I wanted to bring her on to the podcast and have us join us today. So I'm going to let Terry share her story. It's Terry from the Sober Box Company. And we're going to find out a little bit about her story, what led her to this idea of her sober box. We're even going to open up the sober box. One of them, we're going to unwrap it. So we're going to have a lot of stuff going on today. So I'm so excited to have you here with me today, Terry. So if you want to go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about your exit story and about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Debbie. It's so great to be here and be able to share space with you. So about 10 years ago, I was seeking to have a sober life. And I've had a long love affair with alcohol. And everything just about 10 years ago seemed to blow up in my life. Within a year's time, this was around the last recession. About a year's time, I had this huge, it felt like a tornado came through my world, and I felt like I lost everything. My husband and I at the time lost our jobs in the recession. Shortly after, we lost our house because of it, our financial security. My mother passed away from cancer, and the list goes on and on. And I literally just picked up my things and threw it in a truck, and I moved out of state. And I literally felt like I crawled into a cave somewhere just to be able to lick my wounds and just assess like what just happened. And at that point, I literally went through a mental and physical breakdown. And I knew that because of the previous, I'd say like years time, I had started going to yoga, and I started to step away from drink at that time. It wasn't a solid decision. It was kind of a slow rip of the Band-Aid at the time. And so following this, through this breakdown, it was kind of like the big dark night of the soul. And I came out the other side sitting within the holistic arena, and I had stepped away from corporate life, and I never wanted to look back. And I sought the holistic arena to help heal my mind and my body. And through that process, it continued to take me further and further away from drinking. And 5 years ago, I made the rock solid decision to stop. And I've been sober for 5 years now. And actually, the 5 year mark was August 1st. So that is the quick version of a long story.
But that's awesome. And we do have similar things because for me, it was also kind of a year before. Well, actually, it was kind of like a 7 year journey process, but it was around like the time frames that you're talking about. All of it started to affect me too. And then for me, in a couple of, like in a week, September 1st will actually be finishing up 4 years of making that like, okay, I'm done with that part of my life. But
Mhm.
it is I believe what people need to understand is it can be a journey, and that you will have ups and downs all along the way.
Mhm.
And it's okay, you're figuring it out, right?
Mhm.
And but I think we are so used to giving ourselves such a hard time if we still have to figure out how to figure it out, that doing these kinds of things and having a different style of a podcast and a different approach to it, I really think is bringing relief to people out there that are just like us. I think there's way more people out there that were stuck just like we felt than are really allowing that we're actually hearing about. But
Yes.
luckily, with social media and projects like yours and podcasts, they're able to at least hear different ways of thinking about this journey of exiting the drinking life and making that change.
Yes, I
And
agree
so,
totally.
and what I love about what you're doing now is what you're bringing into the world and helping people on that journey. So, tell me a little bit about how the Sober Box came about.
Yeah, so I mean, I learned not really in the moment, but when I look back, I was learning how to release my attachments and get closer to myself. And to get closer to yourself, I was finding all these modalities in the holistic arena, like acupuncture and chiropractic and meditation and yoga. And I mean, really, when you dissect everything that's happening in that arena, they're all pointing you back to the same direction, which is your body and your mind. And so for me, my personal development practice became extremely important. And that time frame of however much, if it's 30 seconds a day or if it's 2 hours a day, how much are we connecting to ourselves and being able to uncover the answers that live within us? And that was really what I was searching for. I was searching for answers, who am I? All this stuff starts to happen. Your circles change, your friends change, but really, in the end, the ultimate road that you need to be on, that everybody, I believe, needs to be on, is that road to self. And so the Sober Box came about because of that theory and that mindset, where what is the importance? When we break it all down, what's the most important thing that we can be doing? And to me, the answer is connecting with ourselves. It's not about telling people what the answers are. It's not about telling people what they should be doing or shouldn't be doing or acting or going or being. It's not. I mean, it's really about who are you, and are you ready to discover the beauty of your own self? And are you ready to uncover, because they're not answers that don't exist that you have to go out and find. They're literally inside you. And are you ready to uncover what those answers are? So the Sober Box, we help sober and mindful women who desire more self-empowerment by providing a monthly subscription box so that they can strengthen their connection to themselves and to other like-minded women. Because as soon as you start to connect to yourself, the other important thing is to start surrounding yourself with like-minded women who will support you. So our box is offering product that and services that are helping you connect with yourself and support that journey.
I think that's beautiful, because one of the first phases when I work with clients that I take them through, I call it FLY, which actually stands for First Love Yourself.
Yeah.
And
Beautiful.
I use that term simply because my stuff is jump seat coaching and my flying life and flight attendant. So I tried to come up with things that would fit in that world to make it a little bit unique and give people something to think about. And that's really the focus I take them through first, before the focus of what you're actually consuming and changing what you're drinking, kind of a thing. So that's part of why I really love what you have. And I haven't got my box yet. I was hoping it would come by the time, because but it's not here. But what I love about it, to me, is like, it's like this present that you signed up for it, but you kind of forget about it. And then the box comes and it's like this present you gave yourself in the mail.
Yeah.
And then you get all excited. And then you can, at that moment when it's there, for me anyway, it's like this reminder of, oh, okay, this is time for me to focus on me. And I think as women, especially, we forget that. We're so used to and taught and trained to put other people first, when the reality is, if we start putting ourselves first, then you stop putting things in your body that are going to harm your body, because you've thought more about, like you talked about, like the mind body thing too.
Yeah, and I think for your sake, for your background, you totally understand this analogy where it's if you're in an airplane, you put the oxygen mask on first yourself. You don't put it on the person next to you. You're as caregivers, natural organic caregivers, we've got to do that. And you're actually going to service more people, love more people, give more energy to your family if you're putting that oxygen mask on first yourself. And I think that, I'm actually not a huge mass consumer. And I remember when I was first putting this together, I was like, well, what do I actually spend money on? And I will spend money on the things that I have put in this box that help me and give me a result. I don't spend things on a lot of excessive purses, and I don't drink alcohol anymore, so I'm not successfully buying alcohol. but what would I purchase that would give me a result? And so I wanted to make sure that when I did produce this box, that it came with results, like something that's really has purpose and that will help. And in this situation, as we're talking about caring and self-care, it's definitely supporting you putting on that oxygen mask first.
Okay, that's totally awesome. I can't wait till we get to open up the box. We're going to do that in a little bit to see what it's actually in some of the boxes. And when we were kind of talking and brainstorming like what to really have as a topic, you were also sharing a little bit about how a little bit of a transition that you're kind of making,
Mm-hmm.
and then how the word sober came up. And we both found that totally fascinating in our journeys and actually looking up the word, because your words really matter, and how you talk to yourself, and that's part of that first loving yourself concept and self-care. And so you want go in a little bit about that conversation and how that came about, and
Sure.
like where you're going, like how you're going to open, like you're kind of what you're doing with your marketing now.
Yeah. So, I mean, especially with like our self-development, we go through like layers and chapters, right? Like, you go and practice, and then it's almost like you hit another level and another layer. And that happens with ourselves and our personal development. And with this business, I did the same thing. And I had to acknowledge that, the first box was our January box of this year. And when we first started, it was gearing really specifically to sober women and women in recovery, which is still who we're servicing. But over time, over the last couple months had went by into the first, second quarter, it was an assessment time and a reevaluation time. And I really realized that it's no different than what I do when I'm working on myself, meaning it's always okay to pivot. It's always okay to assess and evaluate. And of course, and I think you need to do it. You need to constantly assess where you're at and evaluate where you're at with no judgment. And having the permission to pivot, I think as women is extremely important, whether it's a job decision, whether it's, a family decision, whether it's a self-care decision, whether it's a decision of drinking to not drinking. The pivot is always available. And for me, as far as the business, I did a little bit of a pivot, and it's not a large pivot, but for me, it was in a sense that I wanted to apply those same principles to the Sober Box company. So we just opened up our audience is basically what we did, to include sober curious women and sober minded women, and not only just service women in recovery. And I think that that also is cohesive with the current culture, meaning our current culture is expanding as well. And as you know, because you are in this arena and advocating sober curious and sober mindful. So I wanted to make sure that our community was open to women who didn't necessarily go in recovery or identify as an addict, that there's also women who are just choosing a sober life or choosing to be what we're calling sober curious now. So I really just wanted to open up the community so that we broaden the women that are welcome inside.
And I totally love that, because I will admit, when I first, because I heard about your box, I don't know, maybe in the beginning, like when you were first out, and I didn't say yes to it in the beginning because I don't identify myself as a person in recovery, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I no longer drink, but I'm more like and I've never labeled myself as an alcoholic, even though, yes, I totally could have fit the spectrum. Like, it's not
Mm-hmm.
like I did have alcohol use disorder. Yes, I used it to cope with my life. Like, it's not like,
Yeah.
but I think that's part of the problem, is by shaming, blaming, and labeling people instead of helping people and figuring out, like, instead of making it where it's you, the person, there's something wrong with, and realizing, no, the reality is this is a substance that is addictive to the human body, and you
Mm-hmm.
can rely on it too much.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that, so I'm glad that you're making the shift and the transition, because I really initially at first was like, oh, that doesn't apply to me. I don't, I don't, it doesn't, I don't fit there, kind of was
Hmm.
really my first thought.
And
And
I think there's,
so,
yeah, and I think
yeah,
there's a lot of like blurred lines happening all over the place. And you really have to be able to step back and look at things from a totally different lens and just widen your perspective. If you look back as the planet and as the whole, you will
yeah,
see everything changing right now. And if you're in the spiritual world or the holistic arena, you hear a lot of speak right now of we're moving into another level of consciousness, we're expanding. And, you look at even how gender roles right now, we're looking at the Black Lives Matter movement, all of these different things that are happening in our world. Again, if you don't just micro look at each one of them and step back, and then you look back or you look at the sober arena as well, you see the expansion happening there too. Do you feel what I'm saying? Like, you've got to see how, as a planet as a whole, our consciousness is shifting. So the systems that we have in place need to be equivalent to where we are and where we're going, because they're stagnant right now. And again, even if you're talking about systematic racism, or if you're talking about the alcoholic arena, I mean, even AA, I personally believe AA is a beautiful system, has its purpose. Don't argue with it at all. I didn't choose to follow it, but I do honor it. But it's outdated. It's an outdated system. It's a
yes.
system that has been tried and true. But if our conscious levels are changing, our systems need to be cohesive and level to that. So, like I said, if you step way, way back and look at everything that's happening in the world, and then you start to look at the different groups and categories of what's happening, you start to understand why things are breaking down right now, but the gifts that come with that. And I think that, people like you who are servicing sober curious and sober minded women is part of that whole puzzle piece. And we have to be able to expand the dialogue to fit our, let's say, expanding consciousness and hearts.
Right. I think it's totally evolving. And that's where but yet we've also, and I think part of the issue is with the word specifically sober, when you hear it, we're conditioned to think
Mm-hmm.
something that is the definition. If you actually look up the definition, it's not even what the definition says. All the definition is basically not affected by alcohol. That's it. Like, it doesn't say anything about addiction, it doesn't say anything about alcoholic, and there's even further definitions that go into it where it's at a slow pace, subdued, not emotional, like, and a color is tied to sober. Like, if you really look it up in the
Yeah.
dictionary, we've really just, I don't really know how to describe what we've done, but we've really made it such a, I don't know, like a social conditioning, that it's a taboo word. And if you even have to use it, then oh my gosh, I don't want to be that person.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about, where I don't think it's right or wrong. I'm saying
right,
we all need to expand to go along with where we are at. And that word had a purpose, and it had a clear purpose. But now our world and our culture needs to change because us as humans are expanding. And so I mean, that's a cultural issue. When we have that stigma, right? Like, when we have that attachment to that word, and then it no
right.
longer fits who we are or what we're practicing, that's a call. That's a call for, let's revamp this system, let's expand this system, let's evolve it. I really love the word evolve, right? Because I really don't want to get into a discussion of what's right and wrong. I just want to get into a discussion and be open to evolution. And whether it's the evolution of our minds, our hearts, our practices, our systems, I mean, let's just say, hey, this is where we're at, but where can we go, right? Like, how can we grow more? How can we expand ourselves more?
Right. And that, yeah, that's what I think too. And that's kind of like with the word exit, how I originally came up with it. Again, back to my flight attendant life, is because when we're on the airplane and we're trained, when we have an emergency, and we're trying to exit the airplane, one of the commands is basically leave everything.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's kind of like, I was like, okay, so exit, as far as like how I describe it, is you're examining your beliefs, right? And then you're Xing out the ones that aren't serving you, the person, not
Yeah.
society, not the world. And then you're igniting curiosity. So letting go of judgment and moving into curiosity. And then the T is for trust, like trusting yourself to figure it out for yourself, like what your journey is. And so to me, it was kind of like, oh, okay, so the exit part is leave all your old beliefs behind, like examine them and leave them behind, the ones that don't fit for you. If
Yeah.
one of them works for you and allows you to show up in the world the way you want to show up, but it doesn't work for me, that doesn't mean your belief is wrong, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
like opening up, and that's where like the curiosity comes in, and letting go of the judgment, and then the opening up.
Yeah.
Uh,
In the yoga world, we say, let go of what no longer serves you. It's a classic statement you'll hear all of us yoga instructors say. And that's
yeah.
exactly it. That's exactly it. Like, let it go. Let
All
go of
right.
what's not serving you.
And so, what are some of the things? Because I like where your philosophy is kind of like small steps make the big impact. So,
Yes.
what are some of like for someone that's hearing us and they're like, oh, okay, I fit here. I like how they're talking about, I want to make this change. What would be like a couple of small steps that someone could put in, like add into their life and
Yeah.
focus on the adding in, which will gradually let you allow you, as you're doing it, let go of what's not
Yeah.
working for you. So what have been some that you have found, like say three, that someone could start applying and would over time make a really big impact for them?
Yes. So I teach the add-in philosophy, which basically means a good example of the opposite of the add-in philosophy is dieting. Okay. How many times have people tried dieting and it doesn't work? And one of the reasons why it doesn't work is because you start out in a negative mindset. And I am all about starting from a positive mindset. When you say, great, I'm going to go on a diet, what do you hear? It's restriction, and it's no, 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 no. You can't have this, you can't have that, you can't do this, and you can't have that. That sets us up for that negative mindset, which right out the gate is setting you towards failure. So that's not even that. I don't teach that. I teach the opposite, which is the add-in philosophy, which means let's not focus on what we're restricting or saying no to. Let's focus on what we can add into our lives so that what needs to leave can organically do it through pushing out. The more you add in, you're going to organically push out what needs to leave. And that's a more holistic viewpoint and practice of letting go of what doesn't serve you. So instead of focusing on like, I gotta stop eating that Twinkie. I gotta stop eating that Twinkie. Let's just focus on, hey, today I can have some almond nuts. I'm gonna add in. Today I'm gonna add in this. And eventually that Twinkie is just gonna go away. And that's the philosophy that we teach. I actually have an entire life chart that all subscribers get, and they get to fill it out and practice this theory. And it's literally a lifelong tool. Now, two of my favorite products I have or I have three of them actually from previous boxes. These were Seeds of Intention cards. This is from Adrienne Enns, who was our feature guide in our May box. And they're basically, all they are simple cards that have a positive statement that says, for today, and it's a positive statement. Like this one says, for today, I'm grateful. It's a whole deck of cards. Another one of my products that I love was this Clear the Air Eucalyptus Essential Oil Spray by Little Buddha. And this was, I was right around COVID, and I was like, we need to clear the air in here. Let's get rid of this energy, people. So this went in that May box for sure. But you know, we got this, and to be honest with you, this has been the hottest item that the subscribers loved. Why? Because this is a clear example of small steps, big impact. So for me, when I got this, I was like, oh, these are fantastic. And so I put these on my desk, looks out a window, and I put this on the windowsill, and I put this right next to it. And then every morning I come in and I look at my computer and I start it up, and I usually kind of just look around and I'm waiting for it to start, get started. And now what I do is I just take these cards, kind of like a tarot card, I shuffle them, and then I just feel where I need to pull. I pull the card, and it literally sets me in a positive tone for the day. And then I take my spray, I spray it around, clear the air, and it's like a little reset. And now I'm focused. Now I just taught myself to start my day from a positive mindset. It took what, 20 seconds to do. It wasn't overwhelming, but you know what? Instead of starting my day and then starting with stress and going, what am I going to do today? I got to get my list together, and I'm starting in overwhelm. I literally just pivoted 20 seconds, reset the room, reset my senses, and now I'm off. Another product that we had were these Himalayan, this was Himalayan Secrets. They were like 5 or 6 Himalayan salt balls that were in here that you can warm, and they're massage stones. And now I have these sitting by my desk. And every time I start to feel the stress, my stress likes to hang out in my neck and my shoulders. I pop these on the floor. I roll them underneath my feet to hit the pressure points. And then literally, and I was surprised by this because I never did this before. And I actually hate feet. And I hate people touching my feet. Just a little fun fact. And I did this, and I was like, oh my God. And it literally takes all my stress away, and it takes me back. It says, Terri, you've wandered off. You're now experiencing stress in your body. So you're not in flow. Now you're not working from connection. Now you're working from a negative vibration. You need to go back. And it's a snap. I put them under my feet. It calms my body. It hits the pressure points. So I'm literally biologically hitting these parts and resetting my body. And I'm literally spending 30 seconds, sometimes maybe a little longer, and I'm resetting myself. So that's an example of small steps, big impact that we like to run from. I mean, 1-week retreats and 8-hour courses, once in a while you have to do those things, right? But
right, yeah.
For the most part, we don't want to sit there and add in a bunch of huge courses and 300-page books. I mean, those are all have its purpose and its places, but what we're just trying to do is help you become more mindful, connect to yourself in smaller increments that actually have that impact.
And I totally love that, because from the study and the work I've been doing, like, our brains are very visual. So the idea of the way you've set it up, where you see the cards, you put them in your windowsill, you see the cards, you see the spray, and then it's allowing you, right, like what you said, to start your day in a positive aspect, because the reality is, whenever you're doing anything, it's really how you're feeling about that thing that's going to make it easier or harder.
Yes.
And that comes from what you're thinking. And so by having the card and let the card focus you, where you're not even, it's like it takes away also the like the brain fatigue, where the decision's already been made for you. Just randomly pick a card and go with that.
Yes.
And then the spray, because our senses come in, and I love, like, I have my thing back here where I put in my essential oils.
Yeah.
And so allow them to be in the room, and it literally does set you up for success for your day. And it makes a huge difference in what actually goes on. And I think that because I have this process called the observation cycle, and it's really just like this circle and symbol, but it has like think, feel, act. And it really does, it's unlike the chicken and the egg, it really does start with a thought. But as humans, we don't really know, we might notice the feeling first or how we're acting first. So that's kind of why I've got it in a circle, because but once you pick up on one of those, like you do with, you're noticing the tension in your neck, and then you have your tool, oh wait, and this works, I'm going to put it on my feet, because all the meridians, and I use acupuncture all the time, they're all tied together. And so then it's helping you. And I love that those little small things are those visual cues and reminders, and it allows you to basically fly, right? First love yourself in those little 5 seconds. I mean, I wouldn't even think that would take 5 minutes, that whole process. And then the visual cue for your brain is beautiful.
Those cards have been the biggest, and that's the biggest feedback that I receive over and over and over. I just love the little visual reminders. I just need that. I love those. And you're explaining exactly why people love it and why it works. And, you know, the other thing is, you know, we are technically also a self-care box, but I really don't like identifying a lot with that because that word has been so oversaturated. I believe, it's just my own belief, that it's to the point where it's a little overplayed. And it's a little, the association is with like long baths and, you know, these larger rituals, which are so important. And I love it. And I love self-care, and we are about self-care, but also we're also about just that, like I said, the smaller steps with the big impact. It's not something that you have to schedule on Saturday night. Self-care is, yes, those bubble baths on Saturday night, but it is also these little things that we do every day for ourselves. And we don't need to take ourselves to a point of exhaustion to be able to gift ourselves what we deserve in the first place. So, you know, to get people, invite women to get off of this mindset that it's something that we have to schedule and that it has to be this big to do. Yes, of course, do that. Do your acupuncture appointment, get your massages, take your bubble baths. Absolutely. Whatever blows your skirt up, do it. But you know what? Also realize that self-care needs to be a daily thing, and it can literally bubble down to seconds. If you're standing in the kitchen and you feel overwhelmed because you're cooking dinner, you have seconds that you can stop and connect to your breath and recenter. That is also the definition of self-care. That is the definition of mindful. That is the definition, to me, of being mindful.
I think that's totally, totally beautiful. Because for myself, for the longest time, I had this running belief that not alcohol, exercise required 60 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So if my brain is running with that belief, exercise needs 60 minutes. And I have a job, I have kids, I have a husband. I'm like, yeah, exercise is not happening because it needs 60 minutes. So
Yeah,
right away, when I go to that thought of exercise, because I was running that belief, and when I started to question it, I was like, well, wait, does it really need 60 minutes? No, what if I had 5 minutes that I could just pick up the hand weights and do like this and do like this, like for 5, oh, okay, that's exercise, that counts. But my brain, because it needed 60 minutes in my thought, and my running belief was that then that didn't count. Those little things didn't count. And I love this conversation we're having. Hopefully those listening will kind of trick, like get their brain to go, oh yeah, am I thinking stuff like that too? Because when we pause and think about how we're thinking about it, oh yeah, that counts too. And like you said, that little thing totally 100% counts as self-care. That pausing and breathing when you're realizing you're stressed out about something. And I think part of the, like I'm with you, I don't like really the self-care either, is because it's also tied to like, oh, self-care is considered, oh, we get to do day drinking. That's self-care, right? I think the industry has, like the alcohol industry has gone into that too and taken advantage of that and totally marketed to the self-care and like mommy juice and day drinking and all of that stuff in the marketing. Yeah.
I mean, I always say never underestimate the power of accumulation, because if you just are waiting to do that 60 minutes and be that gal that lands those 60 minutes, you're going to be waiting a really long time. And so it's like, you know, when people come to me as a health coach and we're like, you know, I want to work out, but I hate the gym and blah, you know where I start? It's that piggybacking of habits. Like, okay, every time you brush your teeth, go do 5 jumping jacks. You know, where in your routine do you already have rituals or routines in place that you can add on and call it a day, right? And piggyback those habits. Again, it's like you said, you're sitting at your desk. Why can't you do a couple weights with your arms and add that in? And that's what that is, right? There's going to be an accumulation process that happens where now you're getting your body moving on a consistent basis, which is more important than you trying to white knuckle yourself to do a 60-minute exercise once or twice a week and then consider like failing at it that because you don't do it, and then everything comes crashing down. So yeah, big believer in that power of accumulation.
Yeah, and it's just the shifting of our thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what if I thought about it different? What if 5 minutes at my desk was exercise?
Mm-hmm.
Then, if you allowed yourself that belief, and who cares what everybody else believes, and it works for you, and you're literally doing that every day, and you're accumulating and building it up, next thing you know, you look down in your arms, hey, they're looking good. Like,
Yeah,
you're like,
exactly.
it's like,
Exactly. Mhm.
so how can I love this whole conversation, like, making this thing small, sober, and the whole thing. So how can people find out about getting the box? Now, is that the box? Like, did we kind of unwrap it along as we went? Like, what is when the box comes? What does it actually look like? Do you
Do
have
you
one of
want
the
me to
boxes with you?
do you want me to unbox a box?
Sure, I think that would be awesome. Like, because I
So
haven't
I
literally got your box. I have a different box that I have used, but now I'm waiting for, like, I did the August box, so I'm waiting for the box. Hopefully it'll be here soon. I got the email already, said it's
so
coming.
what went out right now. So I don't know what to do. You put me in a predicament because you the orders for
Oh,
the September
sorry.
box. I don't know what to do now, Debbie. So the orders for the September box went out on Monday. So they're all arriving this week. I have in front of me the September box. This is being filmed on the 27th. By the time you air this, it's going to be the 10th. And so everybody will have gotten their box. And so that's why I brought this box. But as we're talking, this is then the box that you haven't gotten yet. So should I?
Right.
I'm
Yeah, I don't
stressed
know.
now.
It's kind of like, it's okay. You can unwrap it. I'll just pretend like it's here. It'll still be a party for myself when it comes.
Now I'm like, oh, I'm gonna steal this woman's joy. I don't know. I don't know what to
No,
do.
you're not. You're not. It'll be joy watching it this way, and then I'll do it again. I'll have joy again when
What if
I'm
I
doing when I'm.
promise to never let the cat out of the bag ever again? Is that, can I steal that for you?
Sure, that works for you. As long as it works for you, I'm okay with it. Really, I
What if
don't
I do this?
mind.
This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna give you a free box on the house. That's what I'm gonna do because I owe you a
Oh,
surprise. I'm gonna owe you a surprise. Does that, so that evens the score a little bit. Now I'm gonna send you a free one, and so it'll even the score. You'll have, as you know, a
so
swap
I'll still have a
bag.
surprise coming. All right, that works.
Not a deal. I gotta do
That's
something
a
here because I
perfect
feel
deal.
horrible.
No, don't feel horrible. It's literally, I asked you to open it. It's good.
Okay. All right, so this is our box. That's our logo. On the box says "For One Amazing Woman," and literally that's all that's on the box. Um, and when you unbox our box, the first thing is a card inside. So there's typically a couple cards, and in this box, this lists the goodies that you get. And so in this box, there are things that you get that are not in the box, is what I'm trying to say. There's virtual gifts. And so with this, we have a feature guide, and this month it's Kate Moyer. She's a yoga therapist and somatic practitioner in Nashville. And she is known for her ABCs of Happy, which I'll go into that a little bit further. But this month, the goodies that are included besides the product in the box are a private webinar from Kate directly to our subscribers. She's also doing an FB Live with us, so our subscribers can interact with her live. And she gives a special discount for our subscribers to her store. And then you have access to our monthly group coaching that is once a month that you can come on and get interact with the other community members, and then get any advice or ideas or things that we're all doing this month for our practice. It's just a gathering for us. And then we also gather for a second time for the new moon circle gathering, which is led by our moon guide. And she does a new moon ceremony, which is basically just a time for you to like take your makeup off, throw your hair up in a scrunchie. You don't even have to put your video on. It's a Zoom call. You can turn the video off, and she does meditation, journal prompts. She also reads, pulls a card, and it's fantastic. It's just another opportunity for you to designate time for yourself and connect with yourself while at the same time connecting with the community. And then we have a gathering, obviously, and we actually have an app and a Facebook group. The second card basically states what's in the box. and a breakdown of the products. On the back of it has a little, checkbox, like what you can do, a recommended practice, and then a monthly mantra. And the products that we put in the box are typically, there's a food item in every box, and then there's a, what do I want to say? Typically not items that are found, let's say like Amazon and Target. I go after in more organic, non-GMO products for the food, if possible. It's not always possible, but that's what I lean towards. And then I favor women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, and small businesses. So again, not everything comes from that, but that is who I'm seeking out, and I favor and I want in the box. And so there is usually 3 to 5 products, 3 to 6 products. The Joy box that had the seed cards in it, which was in May, that thing had that went over our capacity. I went nuts that month. It was stocked full, and you can actually still get that box on our website. So in this box we have the ABCs of Happy, which are cards from our feature guide, and she these are basically to promote mindful and a mindful practice, but she breaks it down with ABC, right? So there's a word for A, B, and then again, it's just that small intention. So I think this is going to be really fun because it plays off of the attention cards, but in a different way. As you can see, there is a bunch of, there's actually 10 sachets of these tea, and it comes from Fire Pot Nomadic Teas. And you get 10 sachets of the Temple of the Sun. It's fair trade, organic, black tea, which is great for this. And this box's theme is happy, and we are ending the summer. So it's all got to focus on how can we soak up the sun the last part of the summer before we switch seasons. And so, and we also have a smudge kit. So in here you have a little white sage, a sweet grass, and then a shell. And that shell is used for smudging, burning, putting cones in. You have to be careful and put some sand in if you're going to burn in it, because it's literally a shell. It's not like, plastic.
Oh, it's not like glass or something.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
So you have to be a little bit careful. If you had clean stones, you could put them in there. So that every month we typically have one food item. I've had granola bars. I've put chocolate, that kind of thing. So to end the summer notes, we have honey sticks in here. We have orange and blackberry blossom, and then wildflower. And then there's some positive statements on there. Be happy, you're beautiful. Positive statements. And that came from the Bee Box, which is a little family farm. And then also we have in here the Laughing Tree Hemp Vanilla Lip Balm, which is basically for those last days of sunburned lips before we say goodbye to those sunburned lips. Those little I shouldn't say sunburned.
I live in Florida, so it's always sunny.
Some of us don't. Some of us are gonna gear up for the winter. And then the last but not least is this envelope, and it says stop, don't open until instructed. And in this is a little giveaway. I love loving our community. And one of the ways that I do that is through giveaways and surprises and bonuses. When you join the community, I do give you a 5-step roadmap. It's 5 levels, 5 steps to self-empowerment. And you have the option to start those levels and work the levels, which each level you get a video and you get a checklist, and it helps you go towards self-empowerment. And so when women are working those levels, I'll give away bonuses for people that are completing that and following their journey along the way. This month, I decided to do it in the box. So I'm asking women not to open the envelope. I'm asking them not to peek inside, and that there are 2 winning cards in this envelope. I'm asking women to join us privately in our group for a Facebook Live, and we're all going to open this together and figure out who won. I was gonna say what the prizes are, but I'm not gonna tell it. Like, I don't want to ruin this for you, Debbie. But they're just tiny little surprises and little giveaways that I'm giving. And I actually tucked something in each of these envelopes so nobody walks away a loser. So everybody gets a little something, but we're looking for the winning cards, kind of like a Willy Wonka chocolate factory winning golden ticket. But I love doing fun stuff like this in our group. It's time as sober women, even if you're practicing sobriety, being sober for 30 days, or whatever it is. Like, if you've made this step and said, I'd like to do this, I'd like to release this attachment in my life, and I want to practice being sober and whatever that definition means for you, I feel like immediately you need to be celebrated because that's a big step. Most people are not out there doing that. They're stuck in their own attachments, they're stuck in their own worlds. And when you get that level of consciousness where you make a move like this, I think it's such a big move, yet we're not actively celebrating it a lot. And I think that needs to change. And I do that by celebrating women in our group, just to remind them, like, you're amazing. Do you realize how amazing you are? If you forget, I'm here to remind you, because
Yeah.
doing that, making that movement to be sober curious or, a woman in recovery is a big thing. It's a big thing. And so we need to celebrate ourselves. So yes, this box has purpose, but at the same time, it allows us that space to celebrate ourselves, to get treated with surprises and bonuses and things that make us feel good. And I think that it's a beautiful combination of celebration, but then purpose together that we can bring ourselves closer to self.
Oh, I totally agree with everything that you're saying too, because really only 1 in 10 people who are wondering about their drinking actually push that button
Yeah.
for, okay, yes, I want help.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's really like, so when, even when people, the little mini videos I have that I do mini courses and stuff, like, yes, it is like an opt-in, but it's because I want to communicate with you by email and keep encouraging you.
Mm-hmm.
But I also, when the first video, when it first comes up, I'm like, first, I want you to congratulate yourself,
Yeah.
because really people don't, we don't celebrate that enough.
And it's, yeah,
And
yeah. And
even
especially women
the,
who are sober curious, right? Too, because
yeah,
I almost, in a way, like if you have identified yourself as having a problem and you go into a recovery, program, in a way, and I walk softly here, in a way you're supported. And in a way that, like, let's say a sober woman isn't, or a sober curious woman isn't, because if you're not there, then you're almost in this weird gray area where you've made a choice, but 9 times out of 10, the people that you've surrounded yourself with are not supporting that choice. They're not going to support that choice. If you're
no,
sitting
they're
here
not.
doing the mommy wine thing and all of that, and then you decide, hey, this is no longer working for me, the whole your inner world and then our outer culture is not going to support you. That's not going to support you. And until you find women like Debbie who are going to support you, or like me that are going to support you, you're going to feel
Right.
unsupported. So that's a bold move. And like you're saying, like, can we just sit and acknowledge that? Even if you're making a move towards recovery or a recovery program, you're identifying as somebody who is actively in addiction recovery, or if you're that woman over there who's making that, it doesn't matter. At the end,
Right.
whatever those choices are, you've made that big move and you're against the grain. And I do nothing but stand up and applaud you. And I'm throwing virtual confetti because I understand what that means. And until you then bring more and more of us who understand you and you build that community of women around you that understand you, will you be able to continue with the choices that you've made?
Right, yeah, because it's like, for me, every time, like, even before doing this, or before sending an email, or before recording a podcast, the thought that I have is, this is so exciting because someone's life is about to change.
Yeah.
Like, right? Like that's the, I mean, like I'm teary-eyed as it is like that, but it's like that for me, even in my office. My husband's like, what's wrong? Are you sad? No, this is happy. Someone's life's about to change. Like, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's really like, it, it's just and I always swore if I ever figured it out, I would find a way to help at least one other person.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so then, so to me, that's what it is. It's like, yes, this is how my new way of making a living. Yes. But it's more, this is my, oh my God, someone's life is going to change because I sent this.
Yes.
Like, but, and because they at least opened it up, whether they do anything else next, it's still a big thing to be celebrated because you opened it up and you read it.
I think, I mean, for me, if somebody opens our box and joins our community and they feel loved, then my work is done, because that all roads positive are going to lead from love, right? Like they're going
Yeah.
to want to get closer to themselves. They're going to want to develop their personal practice. They're going to want to make healthier choices. And that all starts with love. And if as long as people feel that love, I pride ourselves on our customer service that we offer people. All we want to do is deal out the love. Even when you're having a problem, we're going to deal out some love to you. Even if your shipment got lost or something got messed up, which doesn't happen often, but it does because it's just the nature of business. I'm going to love on you regardless. And so as long as, I mean, that's my personal goal. I want women to feel loved and supported.
Yeah, I think that's totally, totally awesome. So how can people, is it thesoberbox.com or
Soberboxcompany.com. Mm-hmm.
thesoberboxcompany.com?
Yep.
So that's how they can find the boxes and get in touch with all the stuff that you do. Okay, awesome. And I am so thrilled that you came on here. And this is actually going to be one of the first, like I'm moving into video too. So this
Yeah.
is going to be on the YouTube page. I'll give you all the links and stuff, but we already decided it's going live September, what do we say, 10th, 9th,
I
whatever.
believe, yeah.
Yeah. So, but I'll send you all the links and stuff once I get it done. This has been so much fun. And I can't wait to figure out another way that we can work together. So this has been awesome. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much for your time, Terri.
Thank you, Debbie. You're definitely a soul sister.
All right, thanks.